Matilda Wright envied her daughter and son-in-law, though she didn't quite understand what was happening to her. Of course, she was happy that her daughter was successfully married and in need of nothing. Emily, as Matilda Wright's daughter was named, was over the moon and very lucky to have a successful marriage. Mother and daughter lived modestly. They could not afford what rich people could. Their apartment was an ordinary, small, 2-room and a blockhouse, with old furniture and constant worries about money for repairs. But what Emily was really lucky in was her natural beauty. Emily bore a striking resemblance to her father, blonde-haired and dark-eyed. She was an exact replica of Matilda's ex-husband, not Matilda herself, which often frustrated her. Although she didn't like to admit it, in her 55 years, Matilda looked quite young. She tried her best to stay attractive by getting face and body massages, mud wraps, Aldean clay masks, contrast showers in the morning, and regular jogging. All these efforts helped her to stay energetic, but her jealousy of her daughter still did not subside. Matilda realized that no matter how much she did in the gym and sauna, she could not regain her youth. Meanwhile, her daughter, Emily, did not need to do anything to maintain a slim figure. She could eat hearty foods and chocolate and not gain weight, while Matilda was careful about what she put in her mouth. These frustrations were reflected in her personality, making her nervous and irritable at times. Emily, with her gentle nature, tried not to escalate the situation, understanding her mother's mood swings and avoiding confrontation. Emily was naturally kind and had a pleasant, malleable character. However, the calmer Emily remained, the more it irritated her mother. After the divorce, Matilda was a lonely woman. She never met anyone new. The men she dated did not meet her standards. They either made little money or were sloppily dressed, not careful about their diet and appearance. In her fantasies, Matilda envisioned a different kind of man, rich, tastefully dressed, and always smiling a radiant white smile. When she first saw Emily's boyfriend, Matilda's heart raced. Her dream seemed to materialize. Emily's favorite looked as if he had stepped off the page of a magazine. Tall, slender, with a well-built figure. He arrived in a luxury car, opening the door for her daughter. Matilda watched them from her kitchen window, peering through the curtain, as if mesmerized. "What a handsome man," she sighed dreamily. Immediately, jealousy stirred in her. When Emily returned from her date, her boyfriend had dropped her off at the driveway, and Matilda felt a pang of jealousy. Matilda wished she were in her daughter's shoes. Emily no longer had to live in a cramped apartment, but now she lived in a private house by the river, which led to a grand marble staircase framed by tall columns. In the garden grew neatly trimmed trees and bushes, and along the wrought iron fence grew roses of every conceivable variety. How lucky she is, thought Matilda. On her first visit to the house, Matilda had felt out of place amidst this splendor. She was used to modest surroundings, but here the cooks prepared exquisite meals and served them to the table. She had never tasted anything like it. The shrimp in a spicy cream sauce was so beautiful that it seemed a shame to eat it. Matilda noticed the fondness with which Brian looked at his young wife, not forgetting to compliment her mother as well. He would tell Matilda that she looked beautiful, and she would blush with pleasure. But when she returned afterward to her modest apartment in a block building, she again felt homesick and envious. Her daughter now had a rich, handsome husband, a luxurious house and a car, while Matilda had nothing. She looked at herself carefully in the mirror. In her reflection, she saw an aging but still beautiful woman. Matilda imagined Brian kneeling with a bouquet of flowers, offering her his heart, and then kissing her on the beach at sunset while romantic music played in the distance. Matilda would wake up from such dreams, almost crying with frustration, because they were just dreams. She began to have these dreams of Brian more and more often. It must be fate's way of telling us that we're meant to be together, she thought. But what about Emily? She asked herself, tearing up. I can't do that to her. It would be so cruel. Still, Matilda couldn't resist fantasizing about being alone with Brian, but such an opportunity never presented itself because her daughter was always there for her. And then one day it happened. In the morning, Matilda dreamed again of her son-in-law. They were walking along the seashore, holding hands, and Brian was kissing her neck tenderly. That afternoon, Emily was sick with a cold and called to her mother for help. Please come and help the gardener prune the roses, Emily begged. I don't feel well and I can't do it myself. Emily usually spent hours in the garden tending to the plants, and she was not one to flaunt her wealth. She always spoke politely to the servants. Matilda, loving her kind-hearted daughter, dressed up, spritzed herself with perfume, styled her hair, and chose lace lingerie that emphasized her figure. On the table beside Emily's bed, medication was spread out. It was just a cold, she just needed rest. After talking to her mother, Emily fell asleep, unaware of her mother's secret desire to be alone with Brian. That afternoon, Brian returned from work earlier than usual. As he got out of the car, he saw Matilda leaning over a bed of white roses. "She's got quite a figure," he thought to himself as he approached her and said hello. "Let me help you," Brian offered, smiling broadly. "I wouldn't mind your help," Matilda laughed back. Their fingers made contact as they took the flower together, and Matilda felt a rush of giddiness. She had dreamed of this moment for so long. In that moment, she wasn't thinking of her daughter, but only of her handsome brother, who seemed to be infatuated with her as well. For a moment, Brian forgot about the fact that his young wife was sleeping in the house. "Let's go to the ivy-covered arbor," Brian said in a voice trembling with excitement. "I'll show you a rare variety of roses we had shipped to us from France." Blushing slightly, Matilda followed him and disappeared into the thick flower bushes. Reason receded, and they threw themselves into each other's arms, sharing a long, passionate kiss. Then Brian slipped out of the gazebo through the secret door so as not to attract attention, and Matilda adjusted her clothes and hair, regretting that she had given in to the impulse. After tidying herself up, she entered the house and headed upstairs to Emily's room, where her daughter was still sound asleep. After gathering her things and kissing Emily goodbye, Matilda returned to her apartment, her mind swarming with thoughts of what had happened with Brian. She decided that this secret should stay between them forever. Matilda's mood improved. She felt young again. "If a man as handsome as my daughter's husband is paying attention to me, then I still have a long way to go," she thought. Emily never found out what had happened. Brian was kind and gentle with his wife, forgiving himself for his fleeting indiscretion. Their relationship did not change. In fact, he became more attentive, bringing Emily bouquets of roses every day, giving her jewelry and perfume. Matilda also began to take more care of her appearance, and Brian even transferred to her account a significant amount of money as a gift. With this money, Matilda bought a season ticket to an elite sports club and signed up for belly dancing classes. During the aerobics class, she met a handsome, athletically built man. Their conversations were easy and casual, and soon they began dating. Over time, they began living together, and her financial situation improved as well. She was no longer lonely and felt attractive and desirable again. Matilda often visited Emily and Brian with her new partner. Their relationship was wonderful. Neither Brian nor Matilda showed any signs of what had happened between them. Eventually, the memories faded and they both moved on with their lives, each busy with their own problems. Matilda never saw Brian in her dreams again. Brian, watching Matilda and Emily peacefully drinking tea on the veranda and sharing news, thought, "You never know what to expect from them." He checked his watch, waved, and left for work, while Matilda and Emily waved back and continued their conversation.